Story 1. I now work at a library. But before the city bought the property in the 1970s, it was a mental hospital with a dark past. I've heard all the stories about the place, especially from older staff members. They talked about the fire that destroyed parts of the building in 1950 and how some parts of it, like the third floor, were left untouched for years. On the third floor, more precisely in the old infirmary that was never used except for storage. I don't know what happened on that floor, but when I was up close in that old infirmary, I could feel the air up there was thick. My coworker Nita swears that she saw something one day. Saw a person-like figure wearing a white robe that disappeared in the corner of the room. I was skeptical when I heard it, but at the same time, there was a part of me that believed the story. One night when I was working the night shift. It was late at night and the library was almost empty. The lights in the main reading room had been dimmed and I was alone in the back. I was in the back sorting through some old books that had been donated. That's when I heard it, a soft scraping sound like someone dragging their feet. The sound seemed to be coming from the third floor. I got goosebumps and my body felt like it was freezing. My heart was also beating faster than it should. The sound was slow and like someone pacing back and forth. It wasn't loud, just faint enough to make me doubt if I really heard it, but I knew that I did. I grabbed a flashlight and walked towards the old staircase. As I ascended, the sound grew louder, a slow shuffling almost like footsteps, but they were irregular. More like someone dragging their feet along the floor. When I reached the third floor and stopped at the top of the stairs, the door was open wide enough to see a shadow inside. I don't know what made me decide to open that door. Maybe it was curiosity or maybe it was something else. When I got inside, something pushed me forward. The air hit me like a cold slap in the face. Then something shifted. I turned around quickly, shining a flashlight into the hallway. That's when I saw it. At first I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But no, at the end of the hallway, there was a figure that looked like it was wearing a long white robe and face hidden in the shadows of the hood. At that instant my breath caught in my throat and for a moment I couldn't move. I couldn't speak and I couldn't breathe. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place. The air became colder. I felt a chill that went straight to my bones and I thought I was going to faint. The figure's head tilted slightly to look at me. I tried to scream but no sound came out. Then without warning the figure just disappeared. I stood there trying to process what had just happened. My heart pounded in my chest and my mind raced to find an explanation. But there was no explanation that made sense, no explanation that could explain what I had just seen. I didn't talk about it much, but I couldn't forget it. Leah was the first to notice when I returned to work the next day. She asked if I was okay, and when I told her what happened, she didn't look surprised. She had seen something similar on that third floor. We both know what that place is now. Story 2. In early 2020, just as COVID started to change our lives, my wife Olivia took a night shift job because night shifts offered more pay to help us stay stable. Working hours from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Olivia had only been at it for a few weeks when something strange happened one night. She left for work around 8:15 p.m. As usual, she said goodbye before heading to work. That night our daughter Emmy decided to spend the night watching a movie with me. It was around 11 p.m. when I heard the jingle of a keychain on the back door and someone's footsteps. I thought it must be Olivia coming back because she forgot something. And sure enough, she was standing in the kitchen still wearing her work uniform. I forgot to bring my knee pads. She said as she rubbed her right knee, which was sore from an injury sustained playing volleyball, making it difficult for her to work without it. Then Olivia called out to Emmy, "Hi princess," as she passed by, and Emmy waved from under her blanket. Then I heard her climb the 7 flights of stairs upstairs. She seemed to be looking for knee protection in a drawer because I heard the sound of a desk drawer opening and closing. Then she went back down the stairs 2 steps like she always did when she was in a hurry. She said goodbye to go back to work and had already started chewing mint-flavored gum to stay awake during her shift. Emmy and I went back to finish the movie, then went to bed. Nothing felt strange and nothing felt wrong. Olivia just stopped briefly to pick up something she'd forgotten and then she went back to work. The next morning while she was having coffee, I casually asked her about her knee and if her knee brace helped her get through the shift. She looked at me confused. "What are you talking about?" She asked, raising an eyebrow, to which I replied, "Yesterday you went home to get the knee brace around 11. Her confusion deepened. "I didn't go home last night, I went straight to work, we were doing inventory, I didn't even take a break." I laughed at that, thinking she was joking. Emmy, who was finishing her breakfast, looked at Olivia and nodded. Yes, Mom, you did call me. Olivia's face became serious and she shook her head. I swear I didn't come home last night, I never left the store. Hearing her words and that very convincing expression on her face, the room went silent, my hands shaking as I took out my phone and looked at the home security camera footage. I looked at the backdoor camera footage from that night, and found a clip of her leaving at 8:15 p.m. just as I remembered, but at 11 p.m. nothing. I checked every camera, front door, back door, side gate, nothing, no indication that anyone had entered the house, yet Emmy and I both saw her. Both Emmy and I heard her say a greeting before she walked out of the house. For days, I couldn't stop thinking about it, in my mind trying to understand what we were experiencing. I kept trying to find a logical explanation, but to no avail. I tested our security cameras and found no interference. I even asked his coworker, and of course he didn't leave the store at all that night. Later that year we moved out of the house. We never discussed it after that, but occasionally, I saw Emmy watching her mom closely when she came home late at night, as if to make sure it was really her. Story 3. Many years ago my parents decided to bring me to go on a vacation with them. We spent the day mountain biking at Snowshoe in southern West Virginia. This was long before GPS became a standard feature in every phone. So we were relying on written directions and an old map. Somewhere along the way we got very lost. We eventually stumbled upon a tiny forgotten town that wasn't on the map. But we figured we'd stop and ask for directions. That's when things started feeling off. The town was completely deserted, not a single soul in sight. It wasn't late either, around 10 in the morning. Everything about the place felt wrong, like the air was too still, the streets too quiet. We parked the truck and split up to look for anyone who could help. The first place we checked was the post office. The door was unlocked, but it was completely empty. Dust motes hung in the air and there wasn't even a sound of a ticking clock or a hum from the lights. We moved on to the bar, the only one in town. It was unlocked, music playing softly from a jukebox in the corner, but no bartender, no customers, no one. The faint smell of stale beer lingered in the air as if the place had been busy just hours earlier. But there was no sign of life. After 20 or 30 minutes of searching, we finally spotted someone. A single old man walking alone in the middle of the street. The man just stared at us like we were the strange ones. Trying to shake off the unease, we asked him for directions to Snowshoe. He pointed back toward the road we'd come in on and told us to follow it about 10 miles before making a right to find the interstate. We thanked him quickly and headed back to the truck. As we left, the feeling of unease followed us. The empty streets, the unlocked but deserted buildings, the old man who seemed to appear out of nowhere, it all felt wrong. Though none of us could quite put it into words. 5 miles down the road things got even stranger. We came across a woman standing in the middle of the road. She was dressed in a state road uniform holding a stop slow sign. The road ahead was a long straight stretch and there wasn't a single car in sight. As we pulled up, she turned the sign from slow to stop, motioning for us to wait. We rolled down the window and asked what was going on. She explained that there was road construction up ahead. After talking with her for around 30 minutes, she seemed friendly enough, but in hindsight something about her felt off. Eventually she said, "Well, I guess it's clear now, y'all can go ahead." We thanked her and drove on. For the next 30 miles there was nothing. No cones, no signs, no workers, no equipment, just an empty stretch of road cutting through the forest. The further we drove, the more unsettled we became. How had she gotten there? There was no vehicle parked nearby. No indication of how she had arrived or how she planned to leave. We realized too late that we hadn't seen a single car since we left the town. After 30 miles we finally found the turn for the interstate and headed north, abandoning our plans for the day. None of us spoke much on the drive home, but the experience weighed heavily on all of us.